What's up, everybody? Ryan McGee here. I got John Lewis and John Gribby from the lab at Gamers with me. We're going to sit down and just talk about the guests we had on this past week and go over kind of the content they provided and John and John's feedback. First, let's go over quickly who joined the lab this week. We got Aaron Pinto from California, who was a Stony Brook University grad, drafted in the 2018 draft by the Cleveland Indians in the 24th round. We also have Billy Lane from Cliffwood Beach, New Jersey, so close to our home. Played at D1 Seton Hall University. 2018 Big East second team. He was drafted twice, both by the Texas Rangers, one out of high school in 2015 and the second out of college in 2018 in the 11th round. Another local boy that joined us, Connor Lehman from Belmead, New Jersey, played D1 at St. Louis University. Had a pretty good senior year with 111 Ks. Who I think he ranks third all time at St. Louis University. He was drafted in the 7th round by the Padres in 2019. Zach Fernandez also joined us, who's a local high school grad from Union, New Jersey, who now just wrapped up his freshman year at D1 Rhode Island University. His junior year, he ranked in the top 10 in New Jersey in innings pitched, strikeouts, and ERA. And lastly, we had Ray Ricker, who's currently a minor league catching coach for the Philadelphia Phillies. Prior to that, he was a coach at Post University for 10 years, 3 of them being the head coach. On top of that, he also coached in the Futures League and the Cape Cod for the Bourne Braves. So we're going to get started with actually some details. So we got John and John. So I don't know who's going to jump in first, but what was the purpose of having these people talk, and anyone specific that you feel was a must-have on?
Yeah, so for us, the purpose of this was, we have kids of all ages that come into the lab from 9 years old all the way up to, guys like Connor and Billy who are in pro ball right now. So we kind of just wanted them to explain their story, their baseball career, and kind of just give details so that kids that are either in similar spots or want to be in similar spots as them can kind of pick and choose what they understand or what they need to work on, and it kind of gives them a platform, to explain everything and explain their journey and how it's different than the guy next to them, right? So Connor, Zach, Billy, Aaron, they all had different journeys, but it's up to the kids now to take what they said, run with it, and realize if I want to be in the position that they were in, this is what I can do and this is what I shouldn't do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's also very important for young kids to hear different voices, to hear different things. You never know, one kid's journey or story might click, whereas another kid, it might not. So the more information you get and the more you can follow and piggyback guys who have been successful and gone on to high levels, the better off you can. So that's kind of the idea of having all these guys on and kind of asking them different things throughout their career that's helped them out.
That's awesome. And knowledge is definitely power. So the more you can learn from people that have experiences, definitely the better. What stood out the most about any specific conversation you had with Connor, Billy, Ray, Zach, or Aaron, or an overall general similar topic or item that they brought up?
I think for me, the thing that stood out the most was each one of them at some point in their career had a bump in the road. Whether it been an injury, whether it been a struggle, having a rough season. Each one of them had that time in their career where they had to kind of look deep into themselves and say, is this who I am? Do I have to make adjustments? Do I have to make changes? Is this what I want to dedicate my life to and dedicate everything to? And it seems that because they've all been successful, they learn from those experiences. Just going through it, Aaron said he had a rough freshman year, and he had that, all the opportunity to transfer out or say, I don't want to do this, but he decided to keep working at it, keep dedicating himself. And now here he is, doing great in minor league baseball. Billy had that, the story we put up where he had that summer relationship with his pitching coach where he was dead honest with him and kind of said, you got to change who you are. You're not, going to throw 98 miles an hour. And he contributes that to helping his career, which, again, is great. Humbling, looking yourself in the mirror and kind of saying, this is who I am. Connor had his surgery and, that whole rehab process he had some issues with. So he had to look himself again in the mirror and say, I got to really push through this. I got to work. I got to make sure that I don't cut corners. And, now he's, again, had a great senior year. His confidence went up. He said he had, struck all these guys out because he just had so much confidence and believed in himself. And Zach is kind of just starting his journey, but I think from what he was saying in high school, he had to, bring that into college and understand that, I can't just get away with what I did in high school. I have to really step my game up. So that's the one thing that stood out to me was, they all had that adversary. It didn't just come natural every step of the way. There's going to be some point in your career, especially as a pitcher, where, you got to really dig deep and really work hard.
Yeah, to add on to that, I think it was the freedom that they all talked about. So, whether it be in their pro organizations or at the college level, the freedom that their coaches give them to be their own pitcher. So we heard a lot of guys say that coaches are telling them it's their career. They do what they want with their career. Well, I mean, I can't emphasize that anymore, especially coming from a pitching coach. I'm sure John can say the same thing is we can only do so much for a kid. We can only tell them so much, but it's really up to them to actually do the work. So the fact that these guys are getting freedom, like for example, Zach, who he's not a big guy on long toss now, or Connor, who loves long toss, and Aaron was saying how it made his career basically long tossing. The freedom that each guy can do different things. I think Billy was talking about he'll use plyo balls, but he'll only throw them behind him. And Connor said it depends on the day. So, having that freedom and kind of having your own routine, that's going to separate you. If you're one of those guys that, I'm not sure what I'm doing today, I'm not sure what I'm doing tomorrow, that you're going to struggle because you don't have a set routine.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, from what I remember, is even Ray from the Phillies mentioned how their pitchers in the organization pretty much had the freedom, and whatever path they wanted to go down, there was someone in the organization to lead them during that path. And I think the routine was spot on. I think I remember a lot of them saying that it was just getting your body and your mind right into a routine to move forward. So, what if you guys could go into what maybe they've talked about at their own separate levels that they did, whether it was technology, med balls, pile balls, that you guys currently do in the lab that's pretty similar or in the same family per se, that'd be pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, so to start off, one is every kid that comes in the lab, no matter what age they are, they're going to be given a routine. So we're not big on being cookie cutter, but if we're not sure who you are yet and you don't have a good base on you yet, we're going to make a little cookie cutter and then you're going to work yourself out of that. So that includes long toss. Everybody in our program long tosses. That's one thing we really, really believe in. If we're outside, we can let it fly. If we're inside, we'll long toss into the nets. Long tossing is very, very important to us. Part of our velocity class, which we did this winter, everybody did plyo balls. So we followed a drive line program. We adjusted a little bit based on each kid, but they all did their plyo balls, and then everybody used Jaeger bands. And for us, that's extremely important for the whole warming up and the recovery process. To go into that, arm care is extremely important. So I know Connor talked about it, is he kind of got into the attitude of he was really good and he stopped kind of caring about his arm, and then he ended up getting hurt and he got set back a lot. So for us, arm care is really, really important, and that's basically all tied into having a routine. On top of that is we use Rapsodo, and we're big obviously on video. So each pitcher, when they're throwing their bullpens, will throw on a Rapsodo. So obviously, for anyone that doesn't know what a Rapsodo is, it measures velocity, spin rate, release point, release height, all basically pitching metrics. And it's really important to us, no matter how old you are, is it'll explain the data that is hard to see sometimes. So we want everything available to our pitchers. We don't want to guess, right? So it's big for us if you're driving down the road and you're not using your speedometer and you're like, oh, I'm going 40 miles an hour. Well, you don't know that if you can't see it. So we want to make sure that when kids are throwing, we're giving them accurate data.
Definitely. And I also think that the biggest one of the biggest things we try to do is just teach high school kids and even younger kids how to build a routine. You know, understanding that when they go on to high school or if they get that opportunity to go into college, it's not just showing up and pitching, 1 or 2 days a week, that there's a daily routine, that they have to get that discipline to do something repetitively, and that's what's going to make them better. So, at the higher levels, routine is everything. We heard a lot from the pro guys that at that level, you're kind of on your own. In college, you have coaches who are there kind of walking you through everything. But when you get to pro ball, it's a job. You're kind of on your own. If you want to work, that's on you. But if you don't want to work, no one's going to force you to work. So, what we try to do is give guys something in the off season that are pro guys to work on and then bring into their season. For college guys, when they're not in college, they train with us and we go over their program with them. And then for high school and younger guys, we're helping them build that program. So the whole goal is just to get them prepared for that high school level, college level, or for, the elite guys, that pro level.
Good stuff. For anyone that is watching this and is unaware or not known, could you guys just explain what actually is the lab, where it's located, and how they could find content you guys are putting out? Because I think you guys are putting out pretty good content. What avenues they could look for that?
The lab is located in Gamers Baseball Academy in Kenilworth, New Jersey. What it really is we've just tried to separate ourselves from everyone else and create something that we strongly believe in as college coaches and former players, that we want to train guys the right way. We want to dedicate our time to them, and really make sure that not only if we're giving a lesson or training or working with them, it's not just a one-day thing or come in once a week. We really want to teach them, like we just said, what a routine is, how to do proper arm care, how to throw right, how to build arm strength, working out. We want a pitcher to understand that, to get to that elite level and to dominate high school and hopefully college and so on, this is a job. This is your life. This is something that you have to work on all the time. We stress schoolwork, we stress, weight training, we stress pitching, everything has to go together. And, that's really the idea of the lab, is just bringing the technology aspect, bringing the video aspect, and then on top of just throwing a baseball, all the training, all the working, all the arm care, everything together. So for me, that's the idea of the lab and what we're trying to do to separate ourselves. And that's why I think we have so many college guys now coming out and pro guys coming back and training.
Yeah, to add on to that, not to knock any other places, because other places do it great, but I know some places that guys are going to are velo, or strikes, and it's hard to get the best of both worlds. And I think we do a very good job of doing the best of both worlds. John played for Stony Brook University and then got drafted by the Marlins. So he's been through it all. He played in the Cape Cod League, so he's had a ton of different pitching coaches. My experience with coaching at Caldwell and then coaching at the junior college level, same thing with John, coaching at the junior college level, the D2 level, and the D1 level, is we've seen it all. So I think we're able to take all of that and kind of form it into one thing and, teach velocity, but also teach the right mechanics, where it's not throw really hard, forget about your mechanics, or, trust your mechanics, don't worry about how hard your throwing is. We want to do the best of both worlds. And I think with our knowledge and experience we're capable of doing that.
After this week's discussions with the guests, was there anything new that you guys discussed and was discovered that you guys are looking forward to implementing in the lab?
Yeah, I think one thing that stood out to us was how important the mental side is. And we've always stressed that, but I think it's something that we're really going to start to even more implement in bullpens and just in our throwing, so that, they call them stress pitches, where there's guys on base, or, really, really emphasize the importance of holding runners, or if we need to get a ground ball, pitching down in the zone, if we need to get a pop fly, like kind of thinking the game instead of just throwing pitches. So that's something that for me stood out, that especially at the higher levels, that makes or breaks a lot of guys' careers. If you have guys second and third with one out, if you get out of that inning, that could change your stats or your, the team, or, something like that a lot of guys don't focus on. So that's something that for me, I'm going to definitely implement more in, and, hopefully that'll help our guys get that edge when they're in that situation.
Yeah,
All right.
I couldn't agree more on that. I think the mental game is extremely important, and I'll be completely honest, and we have never worked on it enough in the past. We've worked on it, but it's just as important as what you do physically. I think it was Connor who was saying that we were asking about, your senior year, you led the conference in strikeouts, and you were third all time in your school history in strikeouts. Like, what changed? And he was like, it was just my mindset that I was better than everybody else. And that's such a big thing, and it seems so simple to think, but it's not. So I think it's very important that we get guys to have the right mindset going into it, especially when they train, so that when they step out on the mound, they're so confident in what they've done and they've practiced the mental game that it just takes over and they're confident.
And I remember Aaron, he pointed out too that there were points of the season where he felt for that split second, like, wow, do I belong, and this and that. And, those are those situations where a mentally tough kid is going to get through that. You have a bad outing, you might have that part of you that's trying to put you down, and you got to fight through that. And he's done a great job. And so I think definitely that's something that stood out to me that we're going to, really, really stress going forward.
I mean, that's good stuff, and definitely look forward to seeing what you guys bring with new drills to incorporate that into all the awesome stuff you guys are doing already. So that pretty much wraps up this week with the guests we had this week. Looking forward for anyone that's following us and obviously viewing this. Every week we're trying to put together panels of coaches, players that are all different levels with different experiences to give different insight, because like these guys said earlier, it's not cookie cutter. Everyone has their own path and a different story. So we're just trying to bring light and get as much information out to the pitchers that are following this as possible. So in the upcoming week, we have a couple of D1 college coaches coming on, hopefully some current pitchers at various levels on, and we look forward to bringing you guys more content.